It is hashtag real race talk, the Revved Up Sports Show. We are back on a Tuesday, getting ready for all of you guys talking about, and of course, we got dogs going on. We got everything going here. The Daytona 500, going to talk about all of that and the cold and great guests coming up. Welcome in. It is Showtime Bobby Chaffee on the right side, Rodney Rodriguez on the left side. Super excited to do this once again at the 7 o'clock hour, which seems to be the preferred favorite of the different little things we've been thinking about. Bobby, how you been doing, man?
It's weird. For as long as we went to 6:30, man, we shifted 30 minutes south, and it seems to hit the hot spot, so to speak, is starting at the top of the hour versus the bottom of the hour. So I don't know. Other than that, just hanging out. This cold front done blown through the house and got it cold up in here. It's going to be in the low 20s, which is not bad compared to 3/4 of the country that's got snow on the ground. Thoughts to our friends over in Kentucky, dealing with both flooding and snowing. So they're in our thoughts and prayers over there. But yeah, it's a little different being on a Tuesday. Yesterday was a holiday though, typical day after Daytona 500 hangover. So we get a chance to regroup here on Tuesday night.
Yep, it's one of those things like we talk about. I mean, the time kind of going back and forth for a long time. 6:30 was kind of the time that worked well, but like anything else, things change. It was something where we kind of started looking at how the viewership and all the different things were going. It's like, okay, it seems like at the time, at 7, 7-8 Eastern, that really seemed to be the time where things were starting to peak. So we just kind of modified right there, which it doesn't matter. The good thing about it is that, we do these from our home studios. Bobby's down south. I'm over here at the AV Consultations studio. So it's super easy to make everything kind of play itself out. So this for now will be the time that we do this. So anyway, but Bobby, I'm sitting here watching. And by the way, welcome in everybody. It's been a couple of weeks since we've done this. I'm watching. Have you watched TGL Golf? Any chance that you have kind of clued into some of that?
No, not really. Not a big golf guy. I mean, putt, okay. But as far as like mainstream golf, I've never been very good at it, so I've been able to really pay that much attention to it. Granted, I guess I wasn't that good of a racer, but I've been paying attention to racing for a hell of a long time.
So what you have with TGL is that you have, and you guys, if you're on the Facebook or YouTube chat, feel free to dive in there, live comments. We'd love to hear them, and we'll talk about that. And like I said, we got Jared Maupin and then Garrett Alberson. So we have great guests coming up. But what TGL does, it's kind of one of those things like Top Golf. So you have Tiger Woods, you have all these like really important golfers on teams of 5 that go off to like a top golf atmosphere, and they're doing all this, and then when they get on the green, they're like live, they're putting, like Price is Right. Wonder how long before we do that in racing, to where we incorporate iRacing into the actual real race the first stage, and then boom, then you get in the car and go.
I don't see that. I mean, the closest thing we had to real life racing was the iRacing during the pandemic. Which actually surprisingly got good ratings, of all things considered, playing video games on live TV. But hell, when you had nothing else going on, the pandemic stuff was kind of fun watching iRacing. But it kind of, I guess that format's similar to what the professional bull riders have tried with their team series locally. The Austin Gamblers, defending PBR teams champions, there with our buddy JJ Gotch. But I think that it becomes a challenge to, it just it's the challenge of the eyeballs, right?
Yeah.
There's so many things. What we have learned, if anything, over the course of the last couple of years of the show, talking to our friends in sports media and reading it for ourselves over, whatever, excuse me, whatever medium it is that live sports is what drives the bus. Most people don't TiVo or DVR the live sports unless you plan to watch it again.
Yeah.
So live sports is what drives the bus. So that's what this golfing thing is going to do to drive the bus. But it's you got some good, what is it? Tiger Woods and Scotty Scheffler or something on the other side, right?
Yeah, you got all these guys that are doing this in a very interactive way. And the other part of that, something that we were talking about today on one of the other shows that I do, is that, like with hockey, I mean, that's another sport where I thought it was a really cool thing this weekend that you had football, that you had the Super Bowl that was done. And I think that this weekend really showcased NASCAR with the 500, hockey. I mean, this USA Canada thing is something where you had 4 million people that tuned in to watch these guys play. It's not even the final. Thursday's going to be a massive, audience that are gonna check in to watch this thing. So I think that this is where racing, hockey, golf, these other sports, this is where you make your impact right now because football's done. So it's a good time. I mean, Daytona, I don't know what the TV numbers are, but it was a good race. We can break that down later. But yeah, good time. Good time for other sports other than football.
Well, UFL's coming. So you got to watch out for that juggernaut.
Well, yeah, I don't know who's going to watch that, but
Actually, as far as ratings go, I don't know the exact number, but apparently it's the most watched season opener for the Xfinity series in like 5 years.
yeah. And hey,
On
CW.
the CW.
Yeah, way to go, CW. I mean, that is a good booth right there. I like the way that those guys kind of mesh together and do a really good job. And I will say, for all the people that want to beat up on Jamie Little, it's really hard for her to do her job when people are stepping all over her. Being a play-by-play guy when you have somebody that's jumping in while you're talking. I mean, that's really hard, and that's what happens to her. It seems like more often than not.
Well, she just doesn't have that command presence that you need as a solid. Not that she's not solid. I mean, hell, she got to interview the president on Sunday at the
She's way
Daytona
solid.
500.
She's
Like
way
she's
solid.
solid. She's solid there, but you got to have a solid booth, right? That has the cohesiveness to do it, right? That's the thing. When you have the drivers come in, they're not. I mean, it took Harvick a full season to not step on Mike Joy. Hell, Clint Boyer still does it, and it pisses Mike Joy off
all the time, right? All the time.
But you know,
I
you
step on
learn it.
you.
Well,
Yeah.
but I mean, it's part of it though. Live broadcast, you're going to talk over each other because the problem is that the racers, the TV guys are, and you've been in the booth. The TV guy is going to watch the monitor.
Yeah.
The racers are going to watch the monitor and have another eye on the racetrack to see shit happen on the racetrack.
Yeah.
That's where they start talking over each other because you got the play-by-play guy calling the monitor, and you got Clint Boyer going, "Oh, somebody's crashing in turn 2 over here." So,
yeah,
TV can't show it all.
Yeah, that's the worst part. Like when you're doing an event and you have somebody with you that is doing, whether they are, a specialist, a color analyst, whatever. But like when they're doing something and you're trying to portray what's going on, and they're like, oh, oh, oh. I would always have that in football. They would send me parents or different people that were coming in, and I'm trying to make a call, and they're like, oh, ho, ho. I'm like, stop, don't do that. That's a hard part right there. That's a very hard part when you get into that. And Boyer is very good at jumping in on Mike Joy, and Mike is very good, the consummate pro, that he does a good job to kind of refrain from being like, get the fuck off me. That would be me. But yeah, Mike's good, really good.
So, like I said, not that she's not solid. It's just that cohesiveness. That's what makes Adam Alexander so damn good.
That dude,
he has control of that booth, regardless of which drivers were in there. And when they walked over him, he played it like a pro. I'm not saying that Mike Joy's not, but that's what made Alexander so good. Speaking of booth, have they mentioned who's going to be in the IndyCar booth for Fox? I keep seeing all the commercials.
I have not heard, and that's a whole thing, with Daytona and everything, the IndyCar thing. I'm curious to know who is doing that. I know Jamie's going to be on pit road, which she should be. I was really glad of that. I mean, because she spent a lot of time in Indianapolis. She lives there. But I don't know who's going to call that race because D. Liffey, that's an NBC guy. So I don't know who is going to call that race. That's a very curious conundrum as to who's going to do that because that's sort of a big race, in my opinion.
It's a big deal. I mean, all your races on network TV, that's big. IndyCar is going to see us. If IndyCar doesn't see a surge, then they've got something wrong they got to solve. And it's a multi-million-dollar question if they can't get a surge in ratings and a surge in popularity just by being on Fox on every single race.
Yeah. I think that it's been really interesting to me as we've gone along, with the Super Bowl, as IndyCar's really getting a lot of push from Fox, and I've kind of wondered, with NASCAR, have they been watching this? The whole thing with Pelot, the commercials, and all that. Are they kind of wondering, well, where's our push? But I don't know. The whole thing is that Fox has that whole schedule, and I think that they're gonna. I mean, for Fox, I mean that's a really big thing that you have the 500 and the 500. You're gonna have all of that and the 600. I mean that is going to be a really epic day, I think, for Fox Sports. That you're going to have all of that on Memorial Day weekend. That's going to be pretty badass.
See, that's the problem. Fox doesn't have the 600 this year.
Oh, that's right.
It's going to Amazon. That's right. The Amazon Prime debut race.
That's right.
If only Fox had the 500 and the 600 on the same day, though. Imagine that. Park it on that channel and then. But who knows? So check this out. You read the deal where ESPN's not renewing those expensive fast Formula One rights again.
I don't blame them. Yeah.
So I wonder who's going to pick that up.
That's definitely going to be a streamer, I would say. I would think that
Netflix
would be
is who I was hearing.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that's a Netflix type of thing right there for them to hone in and do that. But yeah, that's I forgot about that. It's not going to be Fox. It's going to be a different Memorial Day weekend. Having to switch around and find, where you go to ESPN, ABC, that's where NBC, you're used to seeing the 500, not so much anymore. You go to Fox, and to Fox's credit, they really are doing a really diligent job, I think, of pointing the 500 as it should be. I like that a lot.
They are, and I think that's part of it too. In terms of showcasing we'll be able to see what Fox does. NBC did a great job when they took over for the Indianapolis 500.
Yep.
The couple of years that they had it. So I think that Fox, for the way that Fox introduced football and the way that they introduced NASCAR to new audiences, I think they're going to do the same thing with IndyCar.
Mm-hmm. Have you had a chance to check out the Tubi? The Tubi. I like that Tubi. It's when I'm working at home, when I'm sitting here, I turn that thing on, and I think we talked about this towards a lot of the Fox stuff, but really cool to kind of check in and see all the old stuff happening.
It's a bunch of old Fox stuff. I watched the Madhouse race, the Madhouse Classic on it, which I would have been better off watching it on Flow.
Yeah.
But in terms of some of that production, yeah, I mean, I have the account set up on Tubi. Interface is a little funky because you got to go to live TV to get the live channel to pop up. But, I mean, it is what it is. But, I mean, everybody wanted their NASCAR channel. The thing that's getting the most pub out of anything has been that HBO Max or Max, whatever you want to call it, has been their live driver in-car feeds. For $10 a month, you get all 41 drivers live in-car feeds. They're on Max, and apparently that was pretty popular to sync up with our friends over at SiriusXM and do it that way. Have the TV on mute, and then run the live feeds with SiriusXM. That apparently was heard more than one person talking about being able to do it that way. So I hadn't checked it out yet, but I'll probably try to check it out this weekend.
Yep. Brand new day and time to consume this stuff. All right. Let's bring in the man right here. We were talking about it's a really cool night here that we're getting to talk to cool people. Take a look right there. There he is checking in. I bet he's just kind of relaxing right now after everything that he's been through. We've talked to him a couple of different times here on the program. It is Jared Maupin joining us. Man, Jared, after Speed Weeks, my man, how you doing, buddy? You back home?
Yeah, it's funny here, and I think tomorrow we're supposed to have like 30-degree weather, so that's exciting after that nice summer, that nice Florida weather.
Yeah. So Jared, let's talk about everything that you did there at New Smyrna. We'll start out with what you went there to do. Talk about the Florida Modifieds. I mean, driving there for Rick and everything. Kind of break us through everything that you did there. Great finishes. Give us a modified part of Jared Maupin's week.
So run the modified. We tested the night. Actually had a really good car. We had some ideas, at dinner, bounced some ideas back and forth with John Howell.
Mm-hmm.
Friday, we decided to try something. Practice decent, but not as good as we unloaded. So we said, let's just keep going forward with it. Let's not give up on it yet. And car was no good. I mean, it really wasn't good. I want to say we finished like 8th. I mean, we were all pretty bummed. So we said, scratch that. We'll go right back where we were. Next night, I want to say I finished second the next night.
Mm-hmm.
Hot rod. I think we practiced P1, and then Cody Stickler. He's tough. So
Bad son of a gun right there.
had the redraw and all that. Put us on the pole. I want to say led 10 out of the 60, maybe 15 out of the 60 laps. Had a really good car. Super happy with it. Really drivable. He got around me. I kind of paced him a little bit. I couldn't rotate as good as he could through the center. End up second. We kind of digested that, kind of bounced some ideas off each other, what we think we do better. But it sucks because, he had 2/10 on us.
Mm-hmm.
We had 2/10 on third. So we had a hot rod. So we were kind of like, all right, don't freak out. We got a good car. Let's just keep on working with what we got. Next night, just let the setup alone. And the car just wasn't there. And the more we talked about it, we think we're just chasing the rubber on whatever race was before us. So it seemed like every night we were chasing either the pros or the supers and then the touring mods. It was just a mixture. And for some reason, the car would not react the same with different rubber. As the race got on, the car would get better. Maybe that rubber finally burned off, which is kind of odd. On the asphalt side, you really don't think about track prep and what's on the track compared to like dirt. But it wasn't reacting the same because in the daytime, car was lights out. We'd be P1 in practice pretty much every day. But just at night, the car just wasn't the same. No matter what, we did touch the car all day, and the car just wasn't great at night. Me and John bounced some stuff off, and I think we finished another couple thirds or something like that. So we had a decent car. It just got us scratching our head on why the car wasn't any good at nighttime.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of the 60 lappers, right? That's some of the longest races that you've run, either dirt or pavement. You're kind of a fit guy. Were you out of breath towards the end of some of those longer races? Did they have to keep you keying up on the radio saying, hey, just, kind of relax or take it easy or whatever? Or were you just gung ho for 60 laps and worn the hell out?
No, the guy in my ear is John Howell, and there's no relaxing with John Howell. He go, go, go. And I like it. I love it. So, no, there was never really, pace yourself, take your time, none of that. So what I did find, I think it wasn't so much one race, but it was 4 races in a row of like 60 laps and then testing all day. Top of my forearms got sore, I think on dirt, like the late model, I'll get sore here, but I never get sore here. So I get sore on the top of my forearms. That was really the only thing, and I think that had a lot to do with how hard you're gripping the steering wheel. And in the asphalt, you're putting so much wheel input every corner that you kind of have to adjust your hands a little bit, to end up here versus try to get your elbow in. So I had to work on my hands a little bit, but no, not out of breath, nothing like that. It wasn't too crazy. You're just trying to be as smooth as you can. You're not all over the place with the steering wheel, so nothing out of breath. I will say I did get a little. Or with the AC in the Pro Late model, I got a little spoiled with the AC and the model.
So
no, nothing out of breath. I think just getting my maybe asphalt muscles, developed.
So Jared, talk about that part. I mean, you mentioned the Pro Late model. I mean, you wind up in that 9 car. I mean, that's one of the Pro Late models. I mean, they have a super. I mean, those folks that I mean, that's a very renowned car. I mean, Rick and Jet. I mean, they come up and they put a deal together and they drop you in that car. You get to race that. Kind of talk about that transition. I would think for you in a pro. It was one of those things to where it won't go. It doesn't go fast enough. It's like, come on, go. Kind of talk about that and how'd that all come about?
So, John, it's me, Jamie Fuller, and John on the airplane. And it seemed like, to me, it was kind of like a joke. I wasn't sure if he was too serious. And John's like, what do you think about a pro ride? Kind of throwing that out there. And I was like, oh, that'd be cool. Not thinking anything of it. Yeah, that'd be cool. Well, we get there, and after testing on Thursday, he's like, well, I'm going back and forth on a possible deal. Are you in? I was like, yeah, I mean, sure.
I'm here. Yeah.
If the deal works out, let's get with Rick. you know, and Rick was gun ho. I mean, Rick ain't gonna say no. Rick loves it too. So that kind of deal turned out. I know we talked about running a possible practice day, just trying to get some laps before we're actually running a show. So we were going to run a 35 lap on Monday and then the 100 lap Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
So we test on Saturday. Practice actually went really good. So they said, run it. Let's just run it. No, no charge. Let's run it. So we ran Saturday. Good in practice. I didn't qualify too great. I know that's. I'm still trying to get a hang of this. I feel like I don't have enough trust in those new tires as if I should. You know what I mean? They're gonna be there. I just, you know what I mean? I'm a little timid when it comes to the qualifying. You know, myself, I always fear putting into the wall in qualifying, and that I don't want to do that. So I feel like I tend to back up just a hair in qualifying. So I qualified, I want to say 17th on Saturday, and drove it up to 7th. The last 10 laps or so, front end wouldn't stay out of the track. It just kept skating across the track. Even on exit, just, skipping across the track. So I figured we had some bump stop shims come out, and turns out we had a shock issue that kind of slowed us down a bit. But finished 7th, not a scratch on the car. Everybody's super happy. The power's not crazy, right? I mean, it's a crate, but your entry speed is so high. You know, you're going in the corner so high because you can't let that motor bog down. So
Right.
I mean, on the chip, just crank some wheel into it last second. You know, you can't cut your corners off. You got to arc it really late. So you got so much trust in those front tires that it's gonna stick every time. It's gonna stick, and it's weird because right at the flag stand, I mean, you're beating the chip. I mean, you're beating the chip hard. It's new. It's a new feeling, but they got good power for sure. Late in the race, you can buzz the tires. It's more of a free feeling. You know, try not to let the car skate out too much, but yeah, just trusting those big old tires that they are going to stick. But Chris Mitchell, I mean, that guy, he had that car on a rail. First time in it, once I made a few laps, I was like, oh, okay, this isn't bad, you know, and you can trust the car. He had that thing on a rail. He asked, what do you need? And I want to say I was a little tight in the center or something like that, but just a small little change. And they really gave me a great hot rod. And we decided to push the race off on Monday because we were running the modified, so we don't want to double dip. I know Chris Mitchell was working with Rackley Wars, so he had those rides to take care of. So we decided to scratch that. Let's just do Wednesday, the 100 lapper. And I was nervous because obviously Pat Jett's going to be there that race. Great guy. I mean, great guy. That whole crew is just awesome. I mean, they just love to race. You know what I mean? They're diehard guys. We practiced great. Really, really good in practice, actually. I want to say after one of the practices, we were P1. I mean, that got everyone.
I saw that. Yeah, you were. I'm like, damn, look at that.
You know what I mean? You sure? And yeah, P1. So, I mean, we were all pumped up. Pat's pumped up. Everybody's pumped up. Do another practice. Everybody put stickers on. I think we ended up 7th. So we're like, we got a hot rod. You know what I mean? Let's just maybe tweak this and this. Let's qualify. We qualified 14th. The car was real free in qualifying. I mean, there was a couple of times where with these pros, you got to just let this thing go to the wall. You know what I mean? You let it go all the way to the wall. When I say all the way to the wall, I mean dirt ain't got nothing against the wall like these asphalt guys. You got to get up against the wall all the way down. A couple of times you're clinching going to the wall. Like, this is the one. This is the one that's hitting the wall. And no. So the car was just real free. We qualified 14th. Definitely had a good ride. I want to say late in the race, I got up to 4th, restarted 3rd or 4th. I was a little iffy on my starts. My first start was okay, not that great. And then when we started to get up to speed, my starts were way better. On the last one, I was a little scared of trying, a first, second, third. So I just went second, third, fell back just a hair and let somebody fall in place. So we ended up 5th. We had a whole spotter deal. If you look at the results, we finished 17th, but our spotter's battery died. Somebody was supposed to run up a battery to him. Never happened. So the spotter left to go get a battery. Well, as soon as he left, they stopped counting us. So, I mean, that is what it is, right? But it was 10 laps to go. So we raced it out. We finished 5th. Results show 17th, but that don't matter. We raced. car was really good. Everybody's super happy. No dents on the car, no scratches. So it loaded up exactly the way unloaded. It couldn't have gone any better, honestly. I mean, it was a real smooth deal. Everybody's super happy. I couldn't thank Rick enough for giving me the opportunity. John for vouching for me. Had Chris Mitchell for really vouching for me. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
he shed a bunch. So giving me the chance to get in that thing was, I mean, huge.
So, Jared, the one thing I've noticed is being able to interview you as you progressed in Houston. You know, when you first started doing the asphalt stuff there in Houston, to the way you're describing the car now, you know, you're using your hands to talk about the inputs and trying to, you know, use you turning it this hard or turning it that hard. You've adapted to these asphalt cars kind of well. It sounds like you might have found your little niche here running these bigger asphalt races. Talk about that transition moving from Houston and that little bit of knowledge that you had to now. I mean, you went, you know, right up the ladder, truck, modified, pro late model. I mean, you know, and now you're explaining it just like a seasoned veteran.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's no room for, you know, not a slow transition. You got to get up to speed. I mean, they're throwing me in deep water right away, so you can't slowly adapt, but you got to get up to speed now. You know what I mean? This isn't, you don't get this ride. You know, we don't pay for these 2 days for you to learn. No, this car can win. Let's go win this thing. You know, so I got to learn quick. I think that's the best way to learn, anyways. You know, it just, I don't know that. Yeah, Houston was a huge help, right? Houston's such a small track that you got to be ready for the entry soon, and both corners are different. You know, you can't arc it too late in one. You can arc it too late in three. You can arc it too early in three. So learning the track and really keeping the cars up to speed because they don't have any motor is huge. But you go to these big tracks, and these tracks are so big that, you know, the biggest deal is your entry speed. Yeah, I mean, they both don't have motors, but your entry speed of these bigger tracks like Pensacola and New Smyrna, you're entering so fast. And that was the biggest deal to adapt to. Middle off, you know, it's kind of all the same. Just let the car get out to the wall. But your entry speed is huge. Just trust the tire. Don't miss your marks. You miss your mark on asphalt, you know, you lose a bunch of time. So I don't know. It's just about being perfect. You just got to be perfect with these asphalt rides.
Damn, Jared, you sound like a pavement guy, like what Bobby's talking about right there. I mean, we've always known you as Jared Maupin, you know, factory stock, you know, drive anything on dirt. But damn it, man, you sound like these guys are the Daytona 500. I mean, come on, man, it's really cool. So now that this is done, what's next? Obviously, I mean, I'm talking about, you know, for everything. I mean, I know the payment stuff is going to continue to come because I had a lot of people that reached out to me and they're like, you know, this Jared Maupin guy? I'm like, I've run across him. I do know the guy a little bit. Back to Texas. What's up as we start moving forward?
It's funny because there was a few guys, you know, asking Chris, like, hey, who's in that ride? You know, who's in that ride? But it was kind of funny. But I know next weekend we have Montgomery. I think it's Hunt the Bear for the modifieds.
Oh, so you're back in the pavement. All right.
Right back to the modified.
Damn it.
Actually, April 25th, I believe I'll get to run for Pat again at Five Flags in the pro. So my first time back in the pro. Really looking forward to that one. I mean, that's gonna be huge. So can't wait for that. But yeah, right back to the asphalt. I feel like we have something to work off with on that modified. I'm kind of scratching that track with that rubber and all that. We have a really good modified. We know we do. So I'm looking forward to working with John again and trying to chase a bear.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good one to get, my man. That's a good one to get. And you definitely did a great job out there this past weekend, man. Congratulations. Proud of what you're doing right there. And shit, thanks for taking the time. Good to recap it right here with us, my man.
Yeah, appreciate it.
All right, man. Take care. There he goes, Bobby. How about that? Jared Maupin, pavement phenom.
You know, granted, we could say we discovered the guy, even though, you know, he kind of just made himself well known. You know who we need to get him in contact with? Our buddy Matt Weaver.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Imagine if Matt Weaver, remember what he did for Honeycutt when he did that one story on Honeycutt?
Mm-hmm.
We need to introduce Jared, especially with as fast as he's taking asphalt. I don't think they realized when they did that how many asphalt races he actually did not have.
Yeah.
You know, you go from running dirt, winning, 25, 30 races a year on dirt, and then you pop in a pro late model and you're running, fifth at your very first, 100 lap race. That's pretty damn impressive right there.
Yeah, it's so funny that we just talked to Jared Maupin for about 15, 20 minutes. Dirt never came up. We didn't talk about factory stocks, no sport mods, none of that. I'm telling you, that was one of those guys where it was, if he got himself in the right spot when it came to pavement, that it was going to be something that it was going to work out. And when I saw that he was going to drive for Pat, Pat, I know Pat well. I mean, I knew that if he got in those cars, because Jared is one of those guys that he is so aggressive, but yet he's going to take care of the stuff. And that's what he did. That's exactly what he did. And I think that the country now knows who Jared Maupin.
That's a Pensacola.
Yeah, I think that people now know who Jared Maupin is, that we've been talking about for a long time. So way to go, Jared. Super happy for that dude.
I was going to ask him how tall Jessie Punch was in person, because I don't think she's as tall as I thought she was, but
I'd like to find out. I would like to find out. Here's somebody that can tell us, because this dude right here has probably talked to her in Victory Lane a time or two there with Flow Racing. As we dive back in, we go really weird talking about Jared Maupin as a pavement racer. And now we go over to the Lucas Oil Super Late Model Series. And how about this guy right here? This is a favorite here on the local side that doing it to it. It's our guy, Garrett Alberson. Garrett, how you doing, man?
Oh, pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you for reaching back out today. Let's kind of talk about the start of the season for you, man. It's been one of those things to where people have been watching you on the national front, and it's like Alberson is right here. And it seems like this year you've just blown this thing up. Kind of talk about how everything's gone up till this point.
It's been a good start to the year. We went over to Vado, and kind of the start to the late model season for most guys. It seems like every year it's getting a little earlier and a little earlier. This year we left from home on like December 30th or something to get started. And we had a strong week over there. I think the worst we finished at Vado all week was like 7th or something like that. Won one race, ran second once or twice, run third. Like we had a pretty strong little Vado there, and then went over to the Speed Weeks and started with the Lucas Series at Brunswick. And I think one race got rained out. We run 9th in the other one. On the Lucas side of things, we were a little bit spotty, especially on the non-points races, like the tune-up races.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm kind of glad that we had them, because we needed them. Those tracks are also different down there, and we needed some laps to get our, going on some of those tracks. But we ended up having top 10 finishes in most of the actual points races on the Lucas side, and came out of the Lucas side of Speed Weeks about 6th in points, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Which is the best we've ever left out of Speed Weeks on the points end of it. So that was a big deal. But for some reason, we went over to Volusia for the first time ever. Our team's never been to Volusia for the World Outlaws stuff. I've been over there crewing a couple times with Earl Pearson, but never to drive. And we ended up winning. Well, actually, the first feature I actually started, we ended up winning the Outlaw feature there, and then we went back for the Dirt Car Nationals and ended up winning the first Outlaw feature of the week, the second go around too. So it's kind of a wild deal over there.
Mm-hmm.
So, Garrett, talk about the difference. We see that kind of divide with the pavement super late models where you got, you can't run certain seals and all of that, and they're just going back and forth. Talk about the difference between running Lucas Oil versus running the World Outlaw stuff. Do you have to change much on the car? I mean, setup wise, we know the tracks are different, but in terms of like procedures and all that, is it a huge difference going from one to the other, from Lucas Oil to Woo?
I think that's one area that late models got. I don't know the specifics of a lot of the other, like the pavement series and some of those things, but I feel like the dirt late model world has a pretty good deal going where if you got a super late model, for the most part, you can pretty much go run it anywhere.
Yep.
With any of the bigger series like the Outlaw, Lucas, the Flow midweek stuff. I want to say the XR races, the Hunt the Fronts, they're all pretty similar. They all go off of like a unified late models rule package. And you can, for the most part, run the same car at all those. So that part's really cool.
Yep. So Garrett, kind of talk about that part. I mean, with the late models, depending on what you're doing. I mean, when you're out there, I mean, with Davenport, Moran, I mean, you look at standings now, Overton. I mean, you're right there in the middle of that. How gratifying for you that you have gotten to this point so quick that you're right there in the hunt with some of the, I mean, you are one of the best in the business. How great for you and your team that this has happened. And now any given night, any given race, it's like Garrett Albertson is going to be one of those guys that can win a race.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I mean, it might seem kind of quick for, people that, have just been watching the national late model racing. But we've been working at it for quite a while. I started racing late models all the way back in 2010 out in New Mexico, and it's just it's taken a long time to kind of build up the skill set to really do it at that level. And just big thanks to Ken and Beth Roberts for putting me in a position to where we can go out on the national level. It really wasn't even on our radar when we first started racing together. We even talked about it a little bit, and he even told me that I'm not really your guy for the national stuff. I'd like to see you get there, but I'm probably not the guy for it. But somehow we got talked into it, and it's been a really cool deal. And it's like the last couple of years have just been just building that confidence, building that continue to build a skill set, and build a team that's just really strong workers and good attitudes. And it takes all of it. There's so many moving parts and pieces, and it takes a lot, probably more than people realize, to get it all up and down the road and make it all successful.
Mm-hmm.
So how challenging is that, Garrett? In terms of like, you never home, your toter is your home away from home. You got the new little one that's out there. I mean, I mean, is it stressful, or is it one of those things to where like you're like, I'm living the dream and I'm going to make the most of it? Like how does that side work for the mental aspect of that? Racing's still racing, but at the end of the day, when you're not racing, you're still, a normal guy trying to make it happen, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It comes and goes. I think I kind of bounce back and forth a little bit. Like some days, I think especially since having West and our son there, I feel like some days I feel the stress a little bit more than others, because I'm kind of at the moment our main source of income. So you're kind of like, man, I need to run good. But at the same time, when you stop and look at it or talk about it at all, you catch back on to the fact that this is pretty darn cool, and it's a cool situation, or better situation. Maybe not, I don't know, better is the right word, but a cooler situation, I think, than all else I can think of right now. So
it's better than punching a time clock, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Actually, no, it's I feel super fortunate and blessed all the time. For sure. On race days, I mean, we're dead serious, and it's everything you got. And then whenever you're traveling up and down the road, I mean, you pretty much have your whole, like, my wife and I just got an RV. I actually just come in. We've been washing this thing. We're down here in Florida still, borrowing a friend's, Brendan Smith's shop, another a fellow racer that lives out of Florida. And been washing race cars and stuff, and I've been washing the old RV because it's filthy from all the speed weeks and Motto and everything. So, yeah, so you're traveling up and down the road basically with your whole house and your family, and then the rigs going down the road with all the stuff you got, and some of it's stressful sometimes, you know.
Yeah. The road life is something that I think people don't quite understand. Our man Steve Sims checks in. He sent me a message there on the side. You know, that obviously is one of our best friends. You know, Bobby and I, you know, being down here, you know, storming Steve Sims. We grew up watching that dude rocking and rolling around these racetracks. But kind of talk about that part, because I think they're checking in. You know, your dad, you know, Craig, they're checking in. And it's for a lot of people, it's like, man, this new guy, you know, Garrett Alberson, this new guy. And I saw the comment there, the overnight sensation. It's only taken 20 years. How long for you that, I mean, how great for you that it's finally happened. And now when you turn on super late model racing on dirt, people are like, oh, Alberson. Garrett, I was at a car show in Dallas this weekend. I was doing Autorama for my regular job. And I saw a dude stroll through in a Garrett Alberson hoodie. And I'm like, that's fucking cool right there. How great that it's only taken, you know, a couple of years, but you're at that point. How cool for you and everybody.
It is, you know, everybody in this family and everybody that I've ever driven for or has helped me, be it paid or volunteer, just every single person that's put hands on the cars, time, money into all of it. It's just, it's really cool for all those people to, you know, to see it get somewhere that we hoped it would get. And even if it didn't, it was still a great experience.
Been fun.
But it is pretty cool to actually see it, you know, get where you always hoped you would get. Yeah, it's that part of, you know, seeing people with our shirts and seeing yourself racing like on YouTube and TV and this stuff, like that's still very strange to me, and
Yeah.
recognize, you know, more places and stuff in the racing world is definitely pretty wild. But I think at the end of the day, the part that I still love about it is when you go get in the car, it feels kind of like your Saturday night racetrack, because you're racing the same guys every weekend. You're just doing it at different tracks, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So Garrett, here's my question. It seems like the guys that run the upper series get the whole media aspect of it, right? Like they had that, they know when the camera's turned on and all of that, you know, when you have the right answers and all. Most guys. There's a few guys out there, I don't like the pill draw and I don't like this and this is stupid and that's true. For the most part though, most everybody gets it. Do they give you guys any direction or anything at the beginning of the year? Like, you know, say, hey, you know, or at the beginning of the race night, say, hey, you know, first through third's going to stop and talk to the reporter here. Or do you just see the guys or gals waving with the microphone, you know, to stop, turn off the car, pull off the helmet and start doing the interview? How much of that interaction do they do on that side of the world for y'all?
Really not a whole lot of it. It's pretty unscripted. As far as, you know, what people say, and I think that part's still really cool. I think that's part of the reason why the dirt racing's become so attractive to people that used to watch a lot of NASCAR races, because it's still real, you know. There's not, you know, we've all got sponsors that make it all happen, and it's really important to represent them well. But at the end of the day, I feel like most of the people in the dirt world love it because these are just normal people that, you know, have opinions and speak them, you know, when it calls for it. And you know, they'll talk to us on the receiver and let us know, you know, if we need to come in for like a heat race interview, if we want to heat. Or I know sometimes in the Outlaws they'll do like the transfer position or something like that, because it's a little different perspective. And so usually they'll let us know that part of it, but what gets said is totally up to us, and that part's pretty fun.
Mm-hmm. Garrett, don't you think that the one thing, and I really saw this at the Dome when I went to St. Louis, it's kind of one of those things to where everything that's lacking on the pavement side, Dirt track racing, to what you're talking about right there, they're all about the fan. It's a show, and it's not this nonsense about bringing out, Kanye West or Pitbull, you name whatever. When you go to a dirt track race like you guys, when you do a big show, it's all about you guys. It's all about the fans and people. I mean, I'm wearing a Chili Bowl shirt tonight, for crying out loud. It's one of those things to where it's a big deal for you guys and the fans, and you guys you get connected. It's a fun time. It's unheard of these days, right?
Yeah, it is. It's a cool dynamic, especially the big shows like you're talking about, like the Dome and Eldora and place like Fairbury and stuff like that. You can have all those people in there to watch the race, but the drivers are still really approachable, and it's easy to get hits and easy to talk to people, and I feel like our sport's in a really good place right there in that aspect of it. I hope we don't lose sight of that in the next little bit. I think the cool thing about the dirt racing is that I liken it a little bit to going to watch like a really good concert, or like something where I'm kind of like a metal fan, so like a heavy
man,
heavy music fan. So when you go and watch guys just putting it all out there on the edge, like, of what's possible, that's what it feels like when you go watch, big time dirt racing. People, everybody's trying hard, and I think the fans all see it and they get it.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of getting it, I've always wondered about, I'm not a dirt racer. I was a fairly horrible asphalt racer, depending on who you ask. But like when you guys hit those bumps and those ruts and stuff, and it feels like the whole car bounces. Do you guys feel that whole thing? Like, you go to some, a little podunk track, and the track prep's not perfect, and you go off into turn one, and it just looks like the cars are Baja and right in the middle of 1 and 2. Like, do you guys, how do y'all feel that? I mean, is it one of those you're like, oh shit, here it comes again, and you just get ready for it each lap? I mean, how do you adjust to something like that?
Yeah. At times it can be pretty violent.
Yeah.
Just like in the pavement world, the safety's come a long ways, and the seats have gotten bigger and better padding and stuff like that. The I don't know if the downside's the right term, but the other side of that is with these seats getting bigger headrests and stuff like that, and you start bouncing through these holes. These late models can kind of rigid, the way that we use the suspension to build an aero platform that helps our cars out. They don't do holes very good, and so sometimes you get like a set of ripples or a good pothole or something like that. It'll just bounce your head back and forth off the headrest, and you got to straighten your helmet back up and try to get going and try not to let it phase you. So yeah, it gets a little wild sometimes.
Yeah. Garrett, lastly for me, I do want to ask you, because just this whole, ascent that you've made, to be in one of the top super late model dirt track racers in the country. I do want to ask you about our man, Ruben, the guy that's up there doing the races for you guys. I mean, Bobby and I obviously are short track race announcers doing this kind of thing. Talk about that dude right there. As I listen to him, I listen to a lot of race announcers and stuff around the country, and I try to not be very critical about that, but kind of talk about that dude, because he does y'all's races on the Lucas, and I'm like, this fucking guy is amazing. Kind of talk about all of that. I mean, because I know that's one of your guys. He's told me how he learned stuff from you. Kind of talk about old Ruben Mireles right there, what he's doing right now.
Yeah, Ruben. Yeah, actually in the full-time announcer for the World Outlaws.
Yeah, World of Outlaws. That's right.
Yeah, which is pretty epic. It's not the series that we run every week, but it's still cool to get to see him be on the national level. Yeah, because he started just like we did. He started from scratch, and I remember whenever he was a kid, they put him in the announcer booth, and he had announced the legends or the 4 cylinders or something, just to let him get feet wet in it, and he was just an awkward little kid, just like we all were, and he's come a long way. It's really awesome to see it, and that passion that he has behind the mic, that's real. You know what I mean? That's not a face he puts on. Like he's had that passion from day one. He just loves car racing, loves dirt racing, and loves all the people and all the inside things about it. So it's really cool to get to see that.
No doubt.
Well, dude, we got to say though, obviously, with the influence of your Uncle Steve over there, we all keep track of where you're going. Not only because we watch the stuff on Flow and we watch the stuff on when you run the World Outlaws and stuff on Dirt Vision, but we definitely are in tune when he goes on the road trips and takes off. We follow him all on social media, get to see you guys behind the scenes. So it has been cool to be just a small part in it, to just be part of the ride, to see you go from, the 20-year overnight sensation to being one of the best in the country. So it's been a hell of a lot of fun, dude. Congratulations on a good start to the season, and we look forward to talking to you a couple more times throughout the year.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, anytime. Thanks again for having me, and feel super blessed, super fortunate. Just got to thank Ken and Beth Roberts. Care if I thank my sponsors a little bit?
Oh, go for it. Thank you. You got to. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, got to thank Sunoco Race Fuels, Messi Valley Transportation, Bill Stein Shocks, Low Voltage Solutions. We got Romer Machine Welding, Bill's Sport Shop, Nutrient Ag Solutions, Done Right TV. We got a lot of the whole Sims family, racing group, everybody involved, and good product people like Midwest Sheet Metal, Fast Shaft, Swiss Springs, Dirt Car Lift. Just got so many cool people involved with this whole team, and Dickie's Doghouse, Cheap Cars, a couple new people we brought on this year, and it's just been a ton of fun seeing all the support and all the people behind us. It means a lot.
Yeah. See, that's a good thing. When you've gotten to the point where you have that long of a list of people that you have to thank, only 20 years, man, but it's there, and you are the man, and people know who Garrett Albertson is, and lots of success this year, dude. And thank you for taking the time, and please, let's do it again if you have some time soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. All right, man. Take care.
Thank you, guys.
You bet. There he goes, Bobby. How about that? We know that guy.
Yeah, it's been fun. I mean, we keep him with Steve all the time, so it's been a cool deal. I mean, like I said, they ended up switching some chassis a couple of years ago, and that kind of moved them in a different direction for their program, in a positive direction. So it's been a lot of fun keeping up with them. I mean, it's kind of like just that. It adds that extra, like when we watch the Derby, right? We know so many of those guys on a personal level that you just tend to cheer for somebody that you know more on a personal level. Yeah. And it's the same thing watching Garrett race. You're like, oh, that guy's been on the show. We've followed him for years. You're like, oh, I've had him on the show. I kind of know that guy, right? It's the same thing with Ruben in the World of Outlaws. When you know somebody, it gets that personal connection. So it's cool. Not saying that Davenport's not a good dude. Not saying that Brandon Overton's not a good dude. But it does make a difference when you have more of a personal connection with the driver. It makes you pull for him. When he's battling for that transfer spot or battling for that top seed in qualifying, that you pull for him just that little bit extra.
One of the things there with Garrett, it's watching him race. I mean, with the intensity and emotion and everything that happens with those late models, he is so, and this is very much like Storman. I mean, like Steve he still races, but I've watched a couple of different races where Garrett is so cordial. I mean, he's aggressive, yet at the same time, he's not going to sit there and tear your shit up. If avoidable, he's just such a well-groomed professional race car driver, and I think that's something that is so impressive with him. And I think it goes back to what we're talking about, to where it's not this thing to where he's paid all this money and dove into these rides and doing whatever. He's had to work his ass off to get to this point, and he is just so clean and so freaking fast. It's like you turn something on, it's like top of the chart. Garrett Albertson. Man, so glad to see that dude doing well.
It is cool. It is cool because when we have him on the show, seeing him do cool stuff, we like that. I mean, we like to see it's nice to see good people get great opportunities and do the most they can with it and do the best that they can with it. That's what's so cool when we see Honeycutt now with Al Neese. in a truck ride. Got turned from the lead 5 laps into the truck race at Daytona, right? We were talking to him back when he was doing Bandoleros when he was first starting racing years ago.
Yeah.
And then you got a guy like Garrett, who we've seen basically kind of grow up over the course of the last 10 years, thanks to Steve and the family and stuff. When they go skiing and all that good stuff. And then, somebody like Jared Maupin, we started calling his races, 5 or 6 years ago. And, he just slowly but surely just started kicking more ass and got noticed by the right. It's that opportunity, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is it? Luck meets opportunity luck is opportunity and timing coming together.
Yeah.
And, and he's got the right opportunity now with Rick. They put him in a jet car, at the World Series. That's you got some of the best coming down to run that. And now he's going to run the Turner races there at Pensacola. That's going to be a shock, but I look forward to that. So
how many great dudes have rode in one of those number 9 cars? Yeah,
that's a lot.
Really cool thing.
Pro or super.
Yeah, exactly. If you want to keep up with Jared or our man there, Garrett, one place to do it. It's My Race Pass. A word from them. We'll come back, talk some 500. That's coming up.
Welcome to the My Race Pass app, the #1 app for motorsports fans. We want to make sure you get the most out of your My Race Pass app experience. With your new free account, you can use the My Race Pass app to see race day information, including event entries and official lineups and results for over 600 organizations across North America. You can also see track information and purchase online event tickets for select tracks. With your free account, you can also search for a track or series on the My Race Pass app and favorite their profile to receive news and race day notifications on your mobile device. To see more information and to see which app subscription is best for you, be sure to visit getmrpapp.com. My Race Pass.
Yes, indeed. That is the thing to download, My Race Pass. Before we get to the 500, Robbie, how about Butterbean Queen, ARCA winner? I know that a lot of people are, talking about the ARCA race and, whatever the case is, but pretty cool story right there where you get a short track guy, a Cars Tour guy, goes out and wins on the big stage.
In one of his very few ARCA starts at that.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is the real winner of that race was Garrett Mitchell, or otherwise known as Cletus McFarland. He stole the show. Apparently he's going to run at Talladega. Did you know his in-car camera on the NASCAR YouTube channel had 50,000 views before he crashed? That's eyeballs. That's a demographic and eyeballs that NASCAR needs. They need to find a way to put that dude. That's something that ARCA needed, because the problem is he kept calling it a NASCAR, even though it's ARCA, even though NASCAR owns ARCA, but still, NASCAR needs to work with that guy. Obviously, he's a short track racer at heart because he bought the Freedom Factory there,
right,
in DeSoto. So, he's got that lined up for him. And I don't know what we're doing wrong, but apparently we need to take some pointers from him, because if you got enough money off of YouTube to buy a racetrack and help get you an ARCA ride at Daytona, that's we're not doing something right. We need to take a class from him on how to get the monetization happening there on YouTube.
Well, I think the main thing is we need to get him on this program and kind of have a conversation with him, because that I think it was a combination of both of those dudes. I mean, with the Butterbean win and with what Cletus is doing right there. And I had someone that reached out to me because I tweeted something out about Cletus and whatever. And it's like, you're one of the people that likes to, throw shade at it's like, that's a YouTube guy. I'm like, yeah, that's a YouTube guy, but at the same time, that's a racing guy. So that's where it's different. That's kind of one of those things where it's a very different thing to me, where this guy, I mean, he comes out and he's, he's a content creator. He's a whatever, but he stole the show. And that's a guy that, hell, he wound up on the broadcast. I mean, how big was that? So, I mean, it was, I know, people are going at Amber and all the different things right there. But ARCA is very different now from what it was back in the day. And I think that's where people kind of think of ARCA, and they think of the old days of Bob Shatt and Benny Parsons and all these different people. It's not that anymore. It is hardly that anymore. But yeah, Cletus, the man right there on that race.
I mean, they were giving Amber so much shit. He had to make a Facebook post and a Twitter post about a social media post that says, "Hey,
she jumped off.
Back off. Just, we talked about it. I talked to her. It's all good. Leave her the hell alone." Is basically what he had to tell his fans and followers on social media. Leave her the hell alone. Did she create some problems? Yeah. Is she the first one that created a lot of problems with ARCA? It's funny if you go back and listen to the Dell Jr. download that was on Sirius XM when they were talking to Helio Castroneves about the ARCA race.
Mm-hmm.
They were talking about ARCA brakes, ARCA bumpers, stuff like that. So, the ARCA race at Daytona has a stigma associated with it. Did it live up to the stigma? Yeah, pretty much. It went, pretty par for the course. When like 10 cars running at the end. I mean, Helio was involved in 3 different wrecks and still finished top 5. Yeah. And one of the wrecks was at the end of the checkers. So, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, with the ARCA stuff, I mean, our buddy Tim Bryan and Track Enterprises is going to be doing the ARCA West or ARCA East series coming up there in Pensacola on that big race weekend with ARCA West or ARCA East and Stars and Vors Compact Touring Series. So I mean, it's a cool deal. And I think that here's the problem with ARCA, in my opinion, is number one, the cars are out of date, and then number two, they've got to find a way to incorporate it to where we all know it's a developmental series. The problem is it's a rather deep pocket developmental series.
Of course, I mean they all are. I mean, super late models, pros. I mean, it's all that. I mean, when I see, not to interrupt you, but I see that all the time when people are like, well, ARCA, whatever. I mean, look around. Factory stocks on dirt. Money. Okay, good. To your point.
No, but I mean, that's right. But our problem is I think that you get more, to me, there's almost more eyeballs on super late models than there are on ARCA.
Yep.
I think Sawalich is known more for running for Donnie Wilson and winning for races than he is for trying to run for Joe Gibbs and win an ARCA title.
Yep.
It's like there's more eyeballs on the super late model stuff than the ARCA stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying the ARCA is not important in the pecking order, but it's like, it's like these kids are jumping out of late models and going into trucks.
Yeah.
Skipping ARCA. And trucks is turning into the same way to a certain extent, have money, insert ass in said seat.
Mm-hmm. And I think the whole thing with that is, and it's always been this way, is that you pluck people out of short track racing and you put them in a super speedway, and it happens to be ARCA. You put them in there, and bad things are going to happen. I mean, with Amber Balkan this weekend, as all that was going on, I was sitting there watching all the shade that was being cast at her. And again, I mean, I don't know what happened there, but I couldn't help but think of Natalie Decker. I mean, you remember when Nat was doing that, it was like, she was the worst ever. And Amber kind of took that mantle from her this weekend. And, it's a tough thing when you put these kids or people, when you put them in a fast car on a big track like that they're not accustomed to. And maybe they lack some of that knowledge. And that's where you come down to, look, Amber Balkan, Canadian woman, she's a very pretty lady. She's a very beautiful girl. And when you come down to so much of what racing is right now, that's how that's how she got that spot. I mean, she's a race car driver. She's beautiful. And that's how she got that. I mean, every now and then you get into people like Tony Breidinger that you and I, Bobby, have talked about. She happens to be one of those that is gorgeous, but she happens to be able to drive, So it's kind of one of those things where it's hard to mesh all that together to find that talent. And when you get to race teams, with Amber, I mean, people are going to put her in the car because she brings the money. And that's just the way it works right now.
She checks a lot of boxes that car owners are looking for. That's the thing. So does Tony Breidinger. So does Isabella Robusto.
Absolutely.
To a certain extent, that they're, it's, I had the conversation with my better half of when we were talking about the ARCA race. She was talking about all the women. I was like, they're in ARCA. I said, they're trying to get to the Cup Series. NASCAR would love to invite all of them on to NASCAR would invite all of them to come race in the Cup Series, just like NHRA, super diverse.
Yeah.
NASCAR's not quite there yet, but they're getting there. I mean, you know, they those young ladies and drivers, they check a lot of boxes off that a lot of people are looking for. So, you know, Kane's Chicken Fingers jumped on that for a particular reason. You know, because it's called ROI, return on investment.
That's it.
They are sponsoring her because she gets eyeballs. Whether or not she gets eyeballs because the way she looks, the way she drives, whatever the case may be, eyeballs equal return on investment.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what companies are sponsoring for. That's why, you know, like somebody came through and said that Garrett's character is exactly the reason they jumped on as a sponsor. Return on investment is what people are looking for. If it's just sometimes your return on investment is not monetary. Your return on investment is just being proud to be associated with somebody as they make their way up through the sport. So it's you know, Amber took a lot of grief, but I mean, you know, she won't be the only one. You know, there was a couple of guys in the Xfinity series kind of driving around with not pointed in the right direction and then blaming spotters and stuff like that. So
yeah, that was the thing, you know, when a lot of folks were on Amber about whatever. It's like, so how many guys have done that? I mean, how many, you know, underqualified, if you want to quantify with her talent, how many underqualified guys have been able to fall into a seat and do stupid shit? I mean, a lot. I mean, I just think it's more magnified when you get somebody like her, you know, that's a very attractive girl, and she's done her time. I mean, she's raced hard. I mean, I've told you, Bobby, off the record that I think that Catherine Legg is a great race car driver. I mean, with everything that she's done, and she's trying to, you know, work her way into different segments here. I've met her in person, and now I really like her because I heard that accent, and she's very marketable. And that's what, like you're talking about. I mean, people see that, and it's ROI. It's a return on investment, and that's what drives the sport. And for the folks that were, I mean, I think that it was a lot for Amber Balcaen. It's like, guys, calm down. I mean, give her a break. I mean, we saw Joey Logano on Sunday make a move, and we can transition over to the 500. We saw Logano make a move that if Amber Balcaen would have made that move, I mean, she'd have been, you know, run out of the world, you know, and that's where it's so different with all this. As we go to the Daytona 500, you know, Willie B wins another one. Your thoughts on that? I mean, NASCAR, a great job to get that race in. Really good job. They have gotten really good at drying racetracks off and all of that.
Airtight, it's a wonderful thing,
race, man. That was a fun race.
To me, a lot of the energy got sucked out because of the rain delay. I mean, you had all kind of momentum.
That kills TV.
You had the president of the United States pacing the field. He knew his audience. There was definitely not very many boos for Air Force One, not very many boos for the president and the beast. So you felt that energy on the TV. And then you get rolling, and 9 laps in, boom, here comes the rain. You're like, well, shit. And then you got to wait 3 or 4 hours to get, you had a chance to get a little bit of stuff done. Cut the grass, do the laundry, clean the man cave, whatever the case may be in terms of getting stuff done. And then lo and behold, the race, I don't know if it was I would call it a great race, but I wouldn't call it a bad race. I've seen considerably more boring 500s. I've seen considerably more barn burner for 500s. But I mean, the best part about it is, though, we posted it on our page and then I shared it. It's split 50-50. If you're not a Logano fan, Logano was a dumbass. If you're not a Ricky Stenhouse fan, Ricky Stenhouse was the dumbass on that deal. It was split 50-50. That tells me that was a racing thing. Although, in my opinion, I think that there was a bigger hole there that Logano was going after than what Ricky Stenhouse tried to block. I'm just saying.
I think this is where it all depends on who's involved. I mean, if this would have been, Chase Elliott and Ricky, it'd have been, it's all Ricky's deal. I mean, this just happened to be a couple of guys that are not the favorites of a lot of people.
Rising.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a deal right there. But I mean, that was a good debate. But this is where, with speedway racing, and for crying out loud, people quit saying take the plates off. I mean, the restricted plate racing is done. We don't do that anymore. But I think this is one of those things to where it was two guys that are not the most popular. Joey was aggressive. Ricky was aggressive. They were both. I mean, these are two, junkyard dogs. I mean, these are two guys that don't want to give up. It's one of those things. I've been in that spot when somebody comes up and they're rubbing up on the back of your bumper. I ain't giving up. I'm not giving in to what you're doing. And if I happen to look up in the mirror and I know who it is, and it's somebody that I know is really aggressive, and again, they have spotters in these things. If it's somebody that I know, Sean Paul Lehman, that is all over my ass, that I know is aggressive, I am not going to give you an inch. And that's what happened. So it's speedway racing, dude. And it's a good storyline. And I don't know, man. I keep seeing people say, how do you fix this? You cannot fix this racing when guys are beating the shit out of each other. You cannot fix this.
Well, you change cars, but then you end up having the same problem in a different car.
Yeah. I mean, and to me, looking at these cars, I mean, these cars still look weird to me, racing like this.
It's the number.
Well, no. The other part for me is like when a car spins out and hits a wall, inside, outside wall, whatever. I mean, the flip there with the 60 car, when all that happens and that car hits the ground and just rolls on, to me, these cars look very video game to me, Bobby. It's like you shouldn't be able to hit the wall head on and just kind of drive off. It's like hit reset. And that's weird. I mean, Jimmy did it. I mean, how many of these guys were involved in wrecks at some point and they just drove off? And I don't want them to be out of the race. I mean, I want them to be in there, but it's like weird. You hit the fence head on, you just drive off. It's weird. I mean, these cars are so different now.
Yeah. Well, they're not designed to dissipate heat and dissipate
right.
like the other cars were, but I don't know. I think in terms of just the way everything shook out with it, I mean, I don't know. I did love that Logano car, though. That paint job was badass on that Shell Pennzoil Mustang. A couple of really good-looking cars, but you just have to weigh. Like, I felt real bad for Corey LaJoie running top 5 with a handful of laps to go, underfunded. Yep. Got a chance to not. He's not going to win that thing, but a top 5 for LaJoie for a partial season, that's like a glorified championship win for him.
Yeah.
And I'm still mesmerized the fact that we're the only sport where the biggest game, biggest race, whatever you want to say, is not the championship race, because people are more concerned about winning Daytona 500s than they are about winning championships.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but it depends. If you ask Denny Hamlin, he wants the 500 titles. If you ask Logano, he wants the 3 championships. Depends on who you ask. But
yeah, I think the coolest part about this is for the regular NASCAR people, or the people that don't watch but yet do. I think that the way that the schedule lays itself out now is, if you happen to tune that race on and you're a casual, happen to see that, you tune in Atlanta, you're going to get a lot of that same stuff. I mean, you're going to get the all over each other. You're going to get some big wrecks and all that. So I think for NASCAR, and then you come to COTA, I think that's it's a really blazing way to start the season for them. But that is the other thing with that. And I saw a lot of people saying, well, Jimmy Johnson got 3rd. He couldn't, he sucked. I don't care. I mean, there've been a lot of times, Bobby, I won races that I sucked. I wasn't worth a shit, and I got 1st. I got 1st place when guys got disqualified. It's all about the finish. And for legacy, I think for me, that's one of the biggest stories of the weekend, is that legacy. I don't care how they did it. Eric Jones should have won that qualifier. He should have won that race. That caution flag was a bunch of bullshit. I think that Legacy, they may suck from here on out, but damn, you shine on that stage, man. That's one of the biggest stories that I took out of that whole weekend there at Daytona.
Well, and Legacy's not ponying up the money to get all the engineering stuff from Joe Gibbs.
No, they're not one of those teams. I mean, they're doing.
They get their help from TR. They get some help from TRD, the factory support, but all the engineering and everything is in house. Is in house at Legacy.
Right. I think that's a really fucking big deal.
Well, I think when it comes to the pecking order, I mean, Toyota had 11 cars in the 500. Never had that many. Who knows what's going to happen with Dodge coming back? We need to talk about that too. About Dodge, our friend Chris Knight saying Dodge is potentially coming back to the Craftsman Truck Series. I still want to table the discussion about those new electric cars they debuted. As in, those aren't going to be the new Cup cars, but there's definitely, if you don't think that there's not going to be a NASCAR sanctioned electric car series coming up in the next 2 to 3 years, you just been living under a rock.
Yep.
They're not going to replace the Cup cars. Will it suck? Who knows? I mean, I watch Formula E races, but you don't think the manufacturers of electric cars are not going to want to have a racing series that looks like the electric cars they sell on the street? Yeah. Nobody gives a shit about a Renault or a Nissan racing in Formula E that just has the big Nissan on the side of it. But yet, if Nissan had a car that was similar to the Chevy Blazer SS that paced the field and that they just debuted, that would be great. Hyundai, same way. Honda, same thing. Toyota, same thing. If they could have an electric car that looks just like the street car, but a race car, they jump all over that. NASCAR's not stupid. The manufacturers have said make an electric racing series with cars that we have on the street. They're talking about redoing the truck series bodies. I don't know how in the hell they're going to do that. How are they going to do that? Make them crew cabs? Because that's what they sell more of is crew cabs and single cabs? I don't know.
Yeah. 3/4 ton. I mean, what are they going to do right there? And I think that's where NASCAR is with the evolution of what we keep seeing is, and look, this year is a big deal because they're going to Mexico. And I have, look, I'm a Mexican dude, and I have had so many people that call me that have reached out to me from Mexico. It's like, man, we are so excited. They say it in Spanish. We are so excited that the Cup Series has come in and all of this. And this is where, for the American people that may be kind of soured on NASCAR, the people abroad are really excited. It's like, we can't wait. We're going to embrace this coming into Mexico. And I think that's a really huge thing, like with the electric thing. It's not going to replace the Cup Series, but when we talk about, Dodge maybe coming back into the truck part, is there going to be a new OEM on the Cup side? I don't know what's going to happen right there. But I think that if you really do have, like you're talking about, Bobby, if you have an electric series, whatever it's going to be, that's where, who cares what's happening on the Cup side? You're going to have all these manufacturers that are going to be clamoring to be a part of this. And this is where I think that at that point, some of these lower tier, they could supersede kind of what the Cup thing does. I mean, Cup is the upper echelon, but there's lots of really cool things that are happening. And if you don't like electric cars, I'm sorry. It's a part of the world. We didn't like unleaded gas. We didn't like any of that. Now it's a way of the world. It's an ever-changing world, and I think that NASCAR is being very proactive at being a part of that. I mean, that's the world now. Everything is very different these days.
Well, wait till the world is going to explode when Cup cars stop racing V8s.
I know.
But think about the manufacturers that are going to want to come in with turbocharged V6s. You could have 5 or 6 manufacturers in the Cup Series, potentially.
Yeah.
Easily 5 or 6 manufacturers. And they would jump at the opportunity to race head-to-head against these established brands that are already in Cup.
Yeah. And is that a bad thing? NASCAR is going to be like, no. I mean, for those of us, it's like a carburetor. What is that? Yeah. NASCAR is going to look at this and say, I mean, come on. I mean, That's a great point by you. We're talking about one manufacturer, dude. There could be 3 or 4 within 10 years that are going to be a part of this. And it's not that NASCAR's changing or wanting to, buck the system. It's evolution. It's the way it is now. And look, man, I'm the most, carburetor, regular engine type of guy, cast iron heads, all of that. I'm the biggest one of those that you can find, but that's just not the way that we do it now. Fuel injection, unfortunately, is the way of the world right now. I mean, it's. Have you looked under the hood of your brand new car or truck?
I have a naturally aspirated V8, so
Oh, okay. Well,
it passes everything but a gas station.
Yeah. I mean, if you have a new car or truck, raise that hood, go in there, find that carburetor, find those plugs, get in there and do that work that you used to do. It's impossible. And it's, folks say, well, they're doing that on purpose. Yeah, they are. They are, because it's a different time. It's a different time.
Well, I mean, don't be wrong. I mean, I miss the sound of a V12 Formula One engine.
Me too.
I miss that high-pitched squeal. I miss all of that. But have you noticed when they change the engine regulations, how many more manufacturers are coming in? Now, yes, I get that the Cadillac is not going to have its own engine. They're using Ferrari engines when they first come in there. And you got Ford getting involved with Red Bull to do some engineering support for the Red Bull engines that they're building themselves. But just think about the number of manufacturers that are entering Formula One because they changed the tech rules that are more similar to the stuff that they're running on the street. Mm-hmm. Same thing with NASCAR. Am I going to miss the sound of a V8? Absolutely. But how cool is it going to be to see 5 or 6 manufacturers? You got to figure you're going to have at least 4. Mm-hmm. You're going to Chevy ain't, well, actually, let's call it General Motors because they're going to go to Cadillac anyway. You got General Motors. You're going to have Ford. They're not going anywhere. Toyota's probably not going to go anywhere, despite the fact they're leaving the NHRA. Honda's got to come in if they go to V6s. You got Kia or Hyundai is going to want to jump in there. And then you got to figure out what Dodge, and if Nissan doesn't go bankrupt, what Nissan wants to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wouldn't it be a funny thing if after everything that we've been through in the last, 25 years or whatever, if TRD, Toyota, decided to back out? That would be one of those things to where it would cripple NASCAR and short track racing. If Toyota said, we're done, we're not doing it.
I'm surprised they got out of NHRA.
I know. And that's kind of why I mentioned that, to where it's like, oh, okay, what's their business goal? But I think that NASCAR's different for them because they sell a bunch of Camrys and Corollas and Tundras, based on the NASCAR crowd. But that's the one thing that I've thought about so many different times, to where as long as Toyota's been the evil, whatever, the dark knight, I guess that's a good guy, but been the one that ruined it all. If they left, holy man, can you imagine all the technology that goes out the door and everything that, look, Toyota took NASCAR to a new level. And I think a lot of folks think of that on a bad side, towards like they ruined it. No, they didn't. And you look about a manufacturer coming into NASCAR, Toyota did it in the smoothest fucking way possible. I mean, they come in with the trucks, they roll in with trucks and doing.
That's been 20 years ago. They started in 05, 06.
Right. They come rolling in the truck series and then doing what they're doing. Then they're winning championships and boom, here they are. And now I think it's impressive with Legacy, the way that Legacy's doing this. And they've gone out and bought their own engineers and technology, not relying on Gibbs. It's like, again, that's where Toyota to me is so impressive. Look, I drive a Toyota. I love them. You can drive them into the fucking ground. But what if Toyota left? What if they said, okay, well, we're the bad guys. See ya.
I don't see it happening because, number one,
it's not going to happen.
You've been to Frisco, Texas.
Yep.
And you've seen that humongous ass complex they have up there that says, the big marquee on the front door says Toyota North American Headquarters.
Yep.
It is massive. It's 2 city blocks worth, damn near. Massive complex. They're not going anywhere because they want to sell cars. I mean, think about it. The Toyota RAV4 has beaten out the F-150 as the most popular, highest selling vehicle in the United States.
Yep.
Damn crossover SUV, mid-sized crossover SUV at that, beat out an F-150 truck. Never thought you'd see that happening. None of that. Well, that's what they're going to do with the Xfinity. What are they going to do with the Xfinity series? Is that going to be the hatchbacks like they're running in Brazil? I mean, there's no telling what they're going to do with the Xfinity series next couple of years.
They ain't got no sponsor. I mean, and that's the other part of that. I mean, how is that going to work out for them? With, I mean, like, you know, you and I were talking about, you know, with the CW. I mean, I love what they did right there, but now the fact that Xfinity, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, they are not coming back.
They signed a 1-year deal for 2025.
Okay. Well, there you go. I mean, what happens there? I mean, that's supposed to be the feeder series, and you know, it hadn't been for the longest time, but it kind of has reverted back to that, to where it's been more the you know, guys like Allgaier, the guys that you know, maybe you're not going to be a Cup guy, but you're going to race in that series. What's going to happen there? I mean, who's going to fund that? But to the Toyota
Busch
thing,
will come back, just like Craftsman did.
dude, how great would that be? The Busch series, I would love that again. That's
I never thought Craftsman would come back.
I know. So how cool. Well, we can't have the Winston Cup series. They still make Winston cigarettes. Okay.
Not as popular as they once were, but yes.
The Pall Mall series. But anyway, it's a business game, and that's where everything has changed. And we look at it now, even on the short track side. I mean, everything is so revenue based and generated. And I think that's where short track racing does. I mean, you have to lean on these big series, whether it's World of Outlaws or the Xfinity, you know, Cup Series, whatever. I mean, they're the ones that you can correlate what you're doing to them, and kind of, you know, help out.
Toyota's knee deep in World Outlaws.
I know. Isn't that weird?
They got the trucks and all that. Got the NOS branding, and then they're all Toyota. They're all TRD pros.
Toyota has motorcycles, don't they? I mean, they don't. Okay. So what's Supercross now? So it's Kawasaki, Suzuki, Yamaha, Honda,
KTM.
Yeah.
Gas.
I mean,
Husqvarna.
That's the one. Husqvarna. Yeah. So anyway, different day and time, but yeah, racing. Gotta love it. I hate it, but I love it.
Yeah, it's complicated, but it shouldn't be.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. Great program tonight. We talked to Jared Maupin. We talked to Garrett Albertson. Good stuff that we had tonight. If you're checking in from Texas, you're about to get cold. It's cold here now. It cooled off today. I know my friends up in DFW, when I was up there over the weekend, they got some ice and snow and all this different stuff coming in. I've checked in with friends around the country, and they are buried in snow. Talked to one of my buddies in Springfield, Missouri. 14 inches of snow predicted. Winter is here, guys.
Hey, today's the 4-year anniversary of Snowvid down here.
Oh man, remember that when everything closed down? Everything closed down.
No water, no electricity for 3/4 of Central Texas. Yeah, I remember.
Oh man, we had kind of memories of that. We had everything. I mean, we're on the hospital grid, so we had everything. And the wife is like, "The internet's not working." I'm like, "If that's your biggest concern, we are fine." Man,
Yeah.
that was weird. Wasn't that weird? So if you think back about that, we were coming off because same time. I mean, I think in 2020, because we had the Newman wreck. You remember the Ryan Newman wreck happened. Kobe died, and it was like, man, that's some bad stuff. And then we had COVID.
Yeah.
It was like kind of setting the tone, and then we kind of got over that, and then here's Snowvid, and the world closed down around here. Wow, it's weird.
Can't believe that we lived through both of those. Lived to tell.
Isn't that crazy? Isn't that so crazy? You go back and you look at that, and it's like, man, how did we survive? How did we survive? You guys be sure and check all the socials right there that we've been posting, everything scrolling across the bottom. Be sure and like that YouTube page, the Facebook page, everything that we're doing right there. We do this every week. It kind of varies from time to time. It's usually a Monday show. Today's Tuesday, but still working on that time. We seem to have figured out that 7 o'clock Central works well. From looking at the folks checking in, watching the viewership, I think 7 o'clock is a good time. So I think that's what we'll do moving forward. But anyway, Bob, rest of the week, my man, what's going on?
Not a whole lot. Looking forward to Atlanta coming up this weekend. Then got to play a little catch up around the house. Definitely got to clean the garage. I'm inheriting a bunch of tools that I have nowhere to put. So I got to work on that and then figure out what's wrong with my camera and then go from there.
What is that? Boy, look at you.
Yeah.
Disco tech. Oh,
wow.
Man, you look good.
I know, right? At least it happened now, not at the beginning of the show.
Yeah, right at the end of the show. I think that's telling us it's a time to go. Thank you all for being part of the Revved Up Sports Show. Bobby Chaffee down south. I'm Rodney Rodriguez. We are in Texas, and we appreciate you being a part of this. Check it out at Revved Race Talk on Twitter. Be sure and like the Facebook page. Be sure and like the YouTube page as well. Like, subscribe. You still there, Bobby?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't unplug the camera yet, so.
Be sure and like and subscribe to the show, and we'll do this every week. # Real Race Talk. Thank you all for being a part of this. See you next time on the Revved Up Sports Show.